So I started out at Acadia University working in scholarships and financial aid. So I was overseeing delivery of scholarships and financial aid to students, which was a lot of fun. Everyone loves to get money. And when I was there, I developed some new awards to provide need-based funding to students, for example, and also developed some financial literacy programs to deliver workshops to students, and also developed a financial aid day for similar purpose to bring people together to get information and talk about money and funding options for a university. Then after that, I moved on to a registrarial position. It was actually a very long title, Associate Dean of Enrollment Management and Registrar. Took up a whole card, basically. And anyway, in that role, it was much more expansive, working much more with faculty, working with policy and developing academic policy for St. Mary's University here in Calgary. And then moved on to the University of Calgary to an associate registrar role where I was focused on admissions and student recruitment and meeting enrollment targets and developing enrollment models, also working with policy and regulation for admissions. I did a lot of work around creating efficiencies in the admissions process and providing a better experience for students through that front end of their first contacts with the university to becoming students at the university. So for me, it was, when I saw this job posting back at Acadia University, I thought, well, that would be interesting. And it was kind of in line with some of the work I was doing. I had been doing, prior to working in post-secondary, I was doing community-based research. And the organizations I was working with were associated to universities and colleges. So sort of on the periphery. One of the jobs I had was as a researcher working on a community university research alliance, which then led into me doing and leading and conducting community-based research. So it was kind of looking at the determinants of health and, what contributes to a student being ready for post-secondary and being prepared and able to pursue further education, and especially in that case with adult learners who may have kids in rural coastal settings. And then that led me to get into this field, and once I got into it, I got really excited about it, and it was just really interesting to me the notion of enrollment management. There's sort of a rich history of that idea of, I guess how I think of it, engineering enrollment to post-secondary institutions. And I got excited about it. I kind of always knew I wanted to work in the university setting from when I was a student. And, at the time thought, well, maybe I want to be a professor or something like that. And I hadn't really considered administration. But once I got into the field, it's really exciting to me to work with students, to advise them and, help them find their way, because not everybody knows what their way is going to be, whether that's they don't know how they're going to pay, they don't know what they want to study, or they run into barriers along the way through the course of their education. Maybe they need to take a twist and a turn, maybe they need to transfer, so how did they do that? And there's never a dull moment. I guess that's one of the things I like about it. And why I really got interested in it. But really going in, I didn't really know what I was getting into, or that I would, fall in love with the field, so to speak. For me, leadership is definitely situational, and I think you have to be flexible, agile in being able to respond to the needs of your team to carry them forward. I mean, certainly, we often talk about management and leadership, and I think I tend to make a distinction there. And in leadership roles, a lot of what we're doing is managing the day-to-day, the month-to-month, the practical and the tactical. But when it comes to leadership, certainly having a vision for the future, and in roles that I've been in, sort of middle leadership. If I think of it that way, being able to align the leadership of your team at your level with the institutional direction, with the the leadership directions of your leaders, and being able to meld those together and still be effective with leading forward with your portfolio and functions that you're responsible for. One of the exciting things about the field is that it is changing as the times are changing. Yes, studying Greek language, you study Greek language, and so some things stay the same, and some things are very slow to change. But I think perhaps this is an exciting time for post-secondary institutions because there's so much new technology. The different expectations from every generation has different expectations of how the services will be delivered to them, and really, offices of registrars, student services offices are service delivery units. And how they deliver that service and what services they deliver are really pertinent to the success of the work that's being done. So that's kind of exciting to look, especially now. I've taken a look at AI and IBM Watson, for example, as it was emerging as a practical service tool. And I think we're going to see a lot of changes over the next 10 years, maybe sooner. They're already starting to happen with ways that services are delivered in these functions at universities and colleges. I start to think about, well, how is learning going to change? And then, therefore, how is the delivery of functions like registrar's offices, for example, how's that going to change when that is very much rules-based? And, looking at an academic calendar as an example, well, there are all the rules in this one book. And historically people would memorize many of the rules or know them based on their job function, but AI just, it's instantaneous essentially to make a response. And I think that's really going to have a long-term impact on some of the functions that people perform through the services that are delivered. Maybe one of the big questions is the human interaction. We've already experienced, or we might not even know we're experiencing, when we call a company for service, we may be talking to an AI and not know it. So, what is the expectation of students into the future of interacting with a human being? We already see the increase in the importance of websites for delivery of service, and that's a pretty primal example, I guess I would say, of what the capabilities are now and what they will be into the future. So, I've always been an advocate for adopting technology. And when thinking of the adoption of technology for service delivery or for any delivery, how do we then use the power of the people that are working in these functions now? How do we redirect that to better serve students and better work with students? I think when, there's always going to be a need for human interaction. So at least I hope that there always will be a need for human interaction. So I think that that's one of the things that will need to be explored, because it's going to develop. It's here now. So how do we make the most of that by not displacing too many people? I suppose one of the things that I have a bit of pride in is working on a process review project that resulted in improving speed. But with improved speed comes more volume, or at least that was the experience. So, in the first rendition of the work that we did, we identified a number of things to increase our efficiency in the admissions and application process. And eliminating some of the barriers through that process resulted in being able to review applications more quickly, get offers out to students more quickly. But then we found, oh no, now we have more volume because we're remedying these problems. Word is out, so more students applied. So then you're back to square one. So then how do you remedy the things, or what are the new set of challenges to create efficiencies for? They say things about my positivity, positive demeanor. They would definitely say that I'm calm, regardless of the situation. They would, I think, talk about me being empathetic. I think they would talk about me being a team player. They might talk about me expressing interest in what they're doing, and they would talk about integrity, perhaps. Ultimately, I guess we don't know what other people will say about us, but I think those are some of the things that they would, topics at least, that they would talk about. So, thinking of the team environment, whether that's, a team that you're leading or whether that's a team that you're a part of, being able to build relationships within those teams and those environments is a key element. So I think that that's something that I would be recognized for and called in to do. I think part of that's my demeanor, and it doesn't work in every scenario. Being calm is, maybe it's a great tool and superpower, but it's not always recognized as being the right tool for the job. But I think in situations of change, definitely that's a great superpower to have. And I think, another great superpower in the BAT tool belt is communication. I think part of that comes with experience, recognizing through trial and error that you really need to be able to communicate across, up, down, to make sure everybody's in the loop of what's taking place, especially when it comes to change. And change isn't easy for any organization, and each individual is going to react differently to whatever changes. But if you can equip people on your team or across your organization with the right information, then that's going to make their lives a lot easier.